Hello, this is Lori Michelle from Running on Love with God, the weekly program. In April of 2009, I was awakened to the voice of our Creator, God Himself, and He said, go get pen and paper and start writing this down. And I listened. And here I am, all these years later, broadcasting from Israel. And I'm shedding light on very important topics that we need His insight and help with. And I'm here in Israel, and my friend Anna Marie is my co-host every week. She's in Chicago. Hi, Anna Marie. How are you? This week is very topical. It's very current in our daily life because it's about sexual harassment. We're hearing accusations and claims of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct almost daily. Politicians are resigning and celebrities are being fired. We recently heard about Matt Lauer being fired. It's chaos, it's confusion, and people are wondering, how is this happening? Almost every day, someone new is being accused of horrific behavior. So the name of the program this week I entitled, Why is there so much sexual harassment in the news and who is accountable? And I posted on Facebook and on LinkedIn this picture, and I wrote, God's laws prevent men from becoming monsters. Stop the monsters and listen to the master. And it's a very provocative picture, and it's very accurate, really, because women are being diminished in size at the workplace, and they're being stepped on, literally, by men. And this is nothing new, really. I asked the question, is this something new? And I'm not a young woman. I'm 58, and I was in the workforce for many, many years, and I was sexually harassed many times. And so why is it in the news all the time and people are coming out with these accusations almost daily, and it makes you think, is this something new? And the answer is no, it's not. And how did we get into this position is really what we're going to delve into deeper in this program. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Anna Marie, and we'll go deeper.
Well, the title of your program is Why is there so much sexual harassment in the news? And you mentioned it's always been going on, but why suddenly is it news?
There is a mirror being held up to everybody right now. And the mirror started with the presidential election and the race between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And this brought a lot of things to light. And America finally had a mirror being shown to society, American society. And people didn't like what they saw. Donald Trump is the embodiment of what works and succeeds in America. And to deny that as true is to deny that apple pie is American. You know, it's really the truth. All the things that people hate now about Donald Trump are many of the characteristics and qualities that made him highly successful and earned him billions of dollars. Narcissism, sexism, pushy, you know, all those qualities. And I voted for him in spite of many of the qualities that I don't appreciate those qualities. You would be insane to say it's good to be a narcissist, or it's good to be arrogant, or it's good to be pushy. But it worked for him for many, many years. I voted for him because I believed and was guided by God Himself that he was the candidate that was going to keep America safer. And he was the right person for the job right now. But what he also is a mirror. And a lot of people don't like looking in the mirror. And they don't want to hear this right now, that they have fed into a society that is sexist and discriminatory and foul. And I was part of that society since I was a little girl. I wrote a blog a couple of years ago, and this is the blog. It says, I am part of divinity. I am not my parts. And it's a little story about how I awakened to the fact that I was reduced to my body parts at the age of 9 years old. I was going through puberty and I needed a bra, my first bra. And I went bike riding and a little boy made a lewd gesture and I went home crying. And I ran into the basement. My father ran after me and he said, what's wrong? I said, I need a bra. Mommy won't buy me a bra. And she finally did. And the next day I went into school with my new bra, and the 5th grade teacher, a woman, probably a mom, maybe a grandmother, looked at me and she made a beeline towards me, Anna Marie, and I was horrified because I was embarrassed. I was wearing a bra, a little girl. She walked behind me, took her finger and ran it down my back to let me know that she knew my secret. So where does it come from? It's societal. It's everyone. It's men and women feeding into this and not being raised appropriately with appropriate rules and guidelines. We've blurred the lines, and I'll go into it more as we talk.
So you answered why it's in the news now, but isn't that a good thing? I mean, are things going to start to change now?
It's a very good thing. The first thing that we need to do is wake up. That's what I've been trying to do with you every week. We've got a problem. There's a problem, Houston. First, you got to acknowledge there's a problem. But the worst thing you can do is point the finger somewhere else and point the finger at the perpetrator and say that they're evil, get rid of all the perpetrators, and the problem will go away. We have to look at the source. And I'm not saying they're not guilty. I'm not saying that the victim is guilty. I'm saying we're all feeding into the problem.
Okay, explain how you fed into that problem when you were 9 years old. How was that in any way your fault?
Well, I was born into the problem. And then I wasn't taught how to handle the problem. And I wasn't taught at a very young age that I shouldn't touch boys or boys shouldn't touch me. By the time I was 12 or 14, the styles I was in the early 70s. I was wearing halter tops at 12 years old. Do you remember halter tops? I guess they still sell them. I don't even know. I don't wear them. Little bare-backed midriff, my belly button was showing. I was 12 years old. I had a body. By the time I was 12 or 13, because I matured early, I looked like I might have been 18, maybe. Young face, but mature body. And I wore a tube top with my belly showing in public. Not okay. For a little girl who doesn't really know about sexuality, doesn't realize that boys are predators. Girls want to be loved and attractive and have a boyfriend, and boys want sex. Let's call it what it is. And there we are, maturing, and my mother and father let me buy what was in fashion, and it was not okay.
Okay, but that's different from the predators.
Okay, so let's go back to our physiology and our natural inclination. We're spiritual beings in a body, and there's men bodies and there's female bodies. And men have strong sex drives. They're predators. That's their nature. And God gave rules for men and women and rules of engagement. Just like in war, there are rules of engagement. and we have to follow the rules. We start to break those rules one at a time. We start to head down this slippery slope into moral decay. And that's where we started to head, probably in the 50s, totally in the 60s. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I remember being 12 years old, and there were clothing that they were selling for little girls called sizzlers. You had the mini skirts, but the mini skirts weren't short enough. We had to have matching underwear because it was so short we could see our underwear. Do you see where I'm going with this? It wasn't okay. Now, there is law. There is law, Jewish law, Bible law, Torah law on how we're supposed to dress. And lest I not acknowledge the elephant in the room, I don't follow all those laws, but I dress modestly. You don't see me, I'm not showing anything I shouldn't show, but I do wear sleeveless shirts and I wear blue jeans. Those are against the current code of Jewish law on how God wants us to dress. Those laws are going to be modified at some point in time. I'm not here to modify them. I'm just here to talk about modesty. Modesty is excruciatingly important. And in the 60s, we started undressing. By the 70s, we were having free sex. We're all having sex with each other. And by the 80s, we had Madonna. And we're having sex on TV, and there's MTV. And now it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. The #1 YouTube video is by some guy named Daddy Yankee. And it's pure pornography with the exception that they're not completely naked, but they're near naked, having sex. And it has like 4.5 billion views around the world. It's not even in English, it's in Spanish.
It sounds a little bit here like you're blaming the victim, like you're saying that the women aren't dressing modestly, and so the men, because of their nature, are just doing what their nature tells them to do.
I know it may sound like that, and I'm glad you're saying that because I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that God gave us laws, and just like every week we talk about a different law, and we break it a little bit, and we break it a little bit, we move away from what God told us and prescribed to us, and we then see chaos. So he gave us laws, we're breaking those laws, we're not honoring those laws, and we're falling victim to the results. It doesn't mean that a victim of rape is not a victim. What I'm talking about is, how did we get in this mess? How did it become mainstream America to be sexually promiscuous? Let me give you an example. Can I give you one? And then you cry, oh no, I'm being sexually harassed. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but let me give you an example. And you saw this, and if you have a tendency to be offended by things that are inappropriate, then you don't want to look at this right now, but I'm going to show it anyway. This picture, which didn't print very well on my printer, was on LinkedIn, a business social media site where people are promoting business, not Facebook, not YouTube, not LinkedIn, not Instagram. LinkedIn is for business. And we're talking about sexual harassment in the workplace. A woman posted this picture. A woman. It got lots of likes and lots of very crude comments. Can you see what it says? Look at this woman. She's having an orgasm, it looks like, in front of her laptop. Can you see?
And the words say, is pornography considered cheating?
Yes. Is
Okay.
watching porn considered cheating? And this woman is like with her feet up in the air, having sex with herself in front of her laptop. And this was on a business networking site, someone looking for business. What kind of business? I don't know. But she could be a normal woman who's not, maybe she has a good sense of humor, knows how to have a beer with the guys. But maybe she's okay. Maybe she's, not loose or, God forbid, worse. But she posts this. She gets some lewd comments. Maybe someone at her office sees this and, gets the idea that maybe she's, hot to trot. Maybe he invites her in his office and he makes a sexual advance. Maybe it's unwanted. Now, I'm not saying she'd be guilty. And unwanted sexual advance is unwanted sexual advance. Let's be clear. But what I'm saying is our society is decadent. We're inviting trouble. Men are sexual creatures just by their virtual nature, their physical nature. They're predators. So you put this on LinkedIn, and then you get sexually harassed, or someone makes an advance on you and does something unthinkable. And I'm not saying that that's not bad behavior or it shouldn't be prosecuted. What I'm saying is, how did this all happen? This is how it happens. We're not following his laws. That whoever even took this picture is disgusting. We are right now looking at Sodom and Gomorrah in America. There's no rules that anybody's following, and people are looking at the religious people who are very strict and saying they're crazy. But I say that we're all crazy to allow this to continue without acknowledging that we've gone astray. We're doing it wrong. I should not have been wearing tube tops and halter tops at 14 years old, walking down the highway and truckers honking their horn at me. God forbid, there for the grace of God go I. Would I have been guilty of getting, if I, God forbid, was raped at 14? Of course not. But I'm saying that we were doing wrong things. My parents should never have let me dress like that. I should have been educated about a different way of being.
With what's going on right now, I happen to know a lot of really decent, good men. It feels like we're violating the principle of innocent until proven guilty. It seems like anybody can make an accusation and bam, the man gets fired.
Well, there could be a lot of that going on. Yes.
Okay, how do we prevent that? How do we avoid a Salem witch hunt here?
Okay. We got to change the rules of engagement. We got to go back to what was prescribed by God. And it sounds like I'm being Pollyanna-ish, but I'm not. Let me explain. I had a rabbi who was Hasidic back in America. He would not come into my office when I was alone in my office. A man and a woman should not be in an office with a closed door alone. It's a rule. There are no rules. We need to follow rules. And if a man and a woman are never alone like that, where can the accusations come from? Prove it. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that, because those things happen and it's very difficult to prove, and they do happen. What I'm saying is we don't have rules any longer.
In that situation, doesn't that set women back in business? I mean, it doesn't that hamper a woman's ability to transact business if she can't have a one-on-one meeting with a man?
No, have it in a conference room with windows. Make sure you set the setting so that it's appropriate. There are ways to protect yourself. Just like when you go on a flight on an airline, they have screening and they have metal detectors. We have to protect ourselves. We have to understand that men and women are innately different. Men are very sexual. We need to admit that we're different.
Right.
And I'm not saying every man's an animal, but we're in an animal-like body, and they have inclinations. And religious men guard themselves so that they don't cross the line. Religious people, men and women, do not shake hands. They don't touch. They're polite to each other. They smile.
Okay.
They
But
nod.
religious men will shake hands with other religious men, yes or no?
Yes.
But then, so then right there, that's making women different in business.
And they are different. And now going back in time, and I was very successful in business, I think I would appreciate that. I wasn't always comfortable touching and shaking someone's hand. I felt violated. There were many men who the way they took my hand and touched me made me feel like I was prey very often. It happened to me very often. I had a boss who was the owner of a company, and he told me that I had a great body, but I should get implants because my breasts were too small.
You can't say that.
Yeah, he did. But back then, it was the 80s, 1980s, it didn't occur to me to file charges or be offended. I let it go. I wasn't thrilled with it. It was uncomfortable. It was, ugh. But it was business as usual. It was the way of the world. I went on job interviews where the person interviewing me made advances on me. I didn't take the job. I let it go. I wasn't flattered. How many times does a woman, well, I'm over 50, it doesn't happen to me anymore, but I would walk past a construction site and you'd get the cat calls. Woo, 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 like I'm supposed, that's supposed to make me feel good about myself. It never made me feel good, but there are women who like that attention. They feel pretty, but it's not. It's you're objectified. It's not okay. Let me show you another example. Matt Lauer, shocking, right? Why is it shocking? I have pictures here that are years old. He was doing this series of pranks with Ellen DeGeneres. Let me show you some of them. I don't know if they'll show up on the video on YouTube. Look what he's dressed like in the top one here. Is this visible?
Yeah.
And look at this one. He's naked, shaving.
Oh.
Okay. Lovely, right? It's a joke. He had supposedly a lock at his desk, I read, where a woman would walk in his office and he could, from his desk, lock them in his office from behind. Rules of engagement. It's not okay. This is not okay. But let me show you another. The way of the world. I have a charity running on love. And I went to an Association of Development Officer meeting. It's a fancy word for salespeople for the nonprofit industry, development officers. Development means develop cash.
Right, fundraising.
There was a woman, at my table, and I was sitting with my friend who I was friends with many years, who was in the nonprofit sector. And the woman at my table was a professional fundraiser. And the subject matter for this meeting was ethics in fundraising. And she asked a question. She said, I ran a golf outing and I hired 2 young girls to dress in cheerleader outfits to get money from the golfers. Was that ethical? Now, I have 2 young daughters in their 20s. I was appalled that she even asked that question. She raised tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, I'm assuming, dollars from the rich golfers with the big buxom young girls, you know, making them sexually aroused so they open their wallets and give money. And I said, I don't need the speaker to answer you. I'll tell you, that's disgusting. I wouldn't want my daughter being used as a sex object to get money out of golfers. But, you know, her argument was, it's all in a day's work. The means justifies the end. And my friend who sat next to me said, come on, Lori, it's the way of the world. It's the way of the world. And I turned to my friend, I said, it's not the way of my world. I'm not going to use my daughter to get money out of someone, use her body. That's called prostitution, my book.
Okay, what about when you go to a trade show and all these booths have these beautiful young women welcoming you?
Same thing.
But they're, even if they're dressed modestly and they're wholesome and they're just trying to...
If you're using your sexuality and your looks to get money, it's not okay. It should be about your product and your service. It shouldn't be about sex. You shouldn't be misleading someone to thinking they're going to get some favors, a date, if they buy from you. You think that's okay? This is where I'm saying it's blurring the line. And am I saying that there's no such thing as sexual harassment and rape because we've blurred the lines? I'm saying no, there is. There's a preponderance of it. And this is the reason why. Let me show you more. Another thing we talked about, this is great. Nonprofits. Remember the ice bucket challenge?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I hated it. I'll go into that in a second. But right now, I don't know if this is current. It's called the Twizzler challenge. You've heard of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I came across it on YouTube. It's the Twizzler challenge for autism. At least that's the charity that they were saying. Ah, okay. Well, the Twizzler challenge, take a look at this first picture. Meredith Vera.
Oh.
They put a Twizzler in his mouth and her mouth, and they eat till they get to each other, and they kiss. Right? There's a whole bunch of them, and they get lots of money for doing this. Look at this. This is Regis. Regis and Hoda? I don't know. I don't watch TV anymore.
Whoa.
Okay. All for money, for charity. Sweet, huh? And here's a good one. Frida Pinto kisses Kathy Lee Gifford in the Twizzler challenge. So you're asking why? It's not okay. This is not okay. So one final question. I mean, I don't know how deep I have to go into this. And if you think I'm blaming the victim, listen, I am not. I, Lori Michelle, am the victim of child molestation. It's not okay. I'm getting choked up.
Yeah.
I have been victimized my whole life. I just finished my first book, which is not published yet. It's coming out in a few months. My next book is about the book of life. And I'm going to talk about all these things. And I'm going to stand naked before the world to tell you all the horrible things that happened to me growing up. so that it doesn't continue. We have to go to the source. And why? Do I blame myself? No, I don't. I blame the world and our choices. Do you have a question?
Yeah, one final question. Given that our society is what it is right now, what advice do you have for women who are being harassed?
Speak out. Say no. You know, I had another example. I have many examples, but just recently I work out in a gym, and a man apparently attracted to me. I just go to work out. I'm not there to date or find anyone, but he was flirting with me, and I was lifting my barbells. And as I was lifting my barbells, he took it upon himself to walk over to me and touch my bicep. Now, a rabbi who's Orthodox would say, well, Lori, it serves you right. You were wearing a sleeveless shirt working out in a co-ed gym. Well, I say to you, we're a civilized society, and this is not okay. It was not okay for him to touch me. I didn't invite him to come over to me and touch me while I was exercising. So what did I do? I threw him a look to kill. And he backed off, and he never came near me again. He's been very polite, but and I think we have to set our boundaries, and we have to let people know this is not okay. You do not touch me. You do not violate me. This is my body that God gave to me. And so that's my advice, is stand strong, speak out. And what people are doing right now, Corey Feldman, courageously, was a victim of child molestation. And he's writing books, and he's coming out, and he's speaking, and he's calling people out and holding them accountable. This is the time, people. God's holding a mirror up to us. And we don't like what we're seeing right now. But if we hide and we shove it under the rug, we're not going to make it better. We've got to admit where we've gone wrong and how to get it right and do it better. I hope this was enlightening. And God forbid you think I'm making the victim a victim again. No, I'm not. We're all victims of not following God's laws. We need to listen, learn, and work for peace. Go to my website, lorimichelle.net. There are many programs. This is one of many where I shed light and we talk about how we've gone astray and how we need to return to God and His laws and His way of life, because it was in our best interest that He gave us these laws. God bless you. Please listen, learn, and work for peace and share these programs. God bless you.